All right, it's a State of the Program Tuesday for you here on the Locked On Syracuse podcast, because when you lose to Georgetown, a team that is not good, it's time to have some of these conversations. So we will dive into where Syracuse is, where they kind of fit over the next 5 years as well across the landscape of the nation, and what we can expect and how you can fix this problem, because bad regular seasons can be fixed. We will go into all of that and more coming up next.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up? Welcome in. This is the Locked On Syracuse podcast. Tyler, Aki with Tim Leonard. We're with you every single weekday here on the show, Monday through Friday, the only place to get daily SU pods. We thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen every single day. And why wouldn't you? I mean, with everything going on, football has some drama going on right now. Basketball has obviously got plenty of drama. We're going to dive into all of that today on the show. But today's episode brought to you by Sonos. Sonos is the official sponsor of ESPN College Football. Go to Sonos.com to learn more. All right, Tim, where do we even start today?
I don't know. I was just thinking that. Where do we start?
Where do you even start? I mean, after that Georgetown win, it was very deflating looking at Twitter and seeing everything that people were saying about the program, because let's be honest, like, this team is not far removed. It is less than a calendar year removed from a Sweet 16 run. It is less than 5 years, or about 5 years now, from a Final Four run. And you sit and look at this program, and it just feels like everything is going down, down, down. But there's a couple games in February, a couple games in March that kind of perk you up and get your attention. And all of a sudden, you throw Syracuse back into the thick of things as a legit team year after year. But it certainly doesn't ever feel like that from November through mid-February.
Right. So I had our buddy Cooper Boardman. I was texting with him, one of the guys that we went to Syracuse with and did some of the sports media stuff with. So shout out to him if he is listening, because he posed a good question to me. And he basically just said, and we can throw it up on the YouTube now, he said, Syracuse is a top blank program right now. And it got me thinking, because, you know, is it top 20? Is it top 30? Is it top 50, right? Is it top 100 if someone wants to get really negative? You could go a lot of different directions. I'm not saying it's top 100. I'm not that out on the program.
But those people are out there. Those people exist.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Fire Boeheim crowd, and they've been there for a while, and it feels like as time passes,
when will those people give up? Like, let's look at it. I always look at it as at the same lens as I look at Greg Popovich with the Spurs, right? Like, the Spurs and Greg Popovich are hand in hand. You cannot fire Greg Popovich. He gets to leave under his own terms. Same thing with Jim Boeheim. He gets to leave under his own terms, and he's earned that right, just like Greg Popovich has. But at a certain point, it does get a little tired when the same recruits you were used to aren't coming in, when the success in the regular season isn't what it used to be. So I understand the frustrations, but if you're in the Fire Boeheim crowd, I mean, you're yelling at the sun at this point. You're squirting your water gun at the sun, because it's never going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, he's never actually going to formally get fired, but
right.
I think
he's not even going to get pushed out, though. Like, that's the thing, is people who are saying like he's going to get pushed, he's not going to get pushed out.
No, it's not from John Wildhack, at least. I don't see a day where that
not
ever
from
happens.
Any, like, think if it's not, it would have to be a long tenured AD who had been at the university almost stride for stride with him. Like, you would probably have to have at least 20 years under your belt as AD to get him to be the guy that pushes him out. Because you think a new guy's going to come in and push him out, push him to the wayside? That's not happening.
Right. I mean, I guess that's sort of how we felt about John Desko a little bit. And then you get into, was he pushed out or did he retire? And I'm just using that because that is Syracuse and that's John Wildhack in his tenure. But I'm totally with you. Don't get me wrong. And also, they shouldn't fire Boeheim. As much as I hate where this program is at right now, as much as I'm pessimistic on the outlook and the future of the program, I do think it might not be rock bottom right now, because Jim Boeheim is getting something out of this team in March. He is maximizing talent some years. Now, this year you can make a case he's not, but it really comes down to they don't have the pieces they used to for me. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And you can make a case that the 2-3 zone's outdated and all that, and it's getting harder and harder to root against that case or to come up with a bulletproof analysis of why it is not outdated, because the 3-point defense this year has been terrible. They're allowing the most threes in the country right now. But I do think it could be getting even worse. It could be even worse after Jim Boeheim leaves, is what I'm
Yes.
really worried about long term.
Because I look at it this way. This is what I'm super interested in the post Boeheim era, is how much weight does Syracuse hold? Like the brand of Syracuse hold. I don't think it's going to be as bad as some people think, because I think in the Northeast it still holds a heck of a lot of stake. But it's certainly not going to be like Duke, where I mean, John Shire, not only has he not lost a step, he may have elevated, like from a recruiting standpoint, he may have stepped a peg up from what Coach K was doing, like with some of those guys that he's pulling in. And like UNC isn't going to lose a step. I think Syracuse is going to be the most intriguing post legend sort of destination. And what do they become after their legendary coach steps down? Like Michigan State, I think, is always going to be a prestigious program even after Izzo. Obviously, Carolina is always going to be a prestigious program after Roy Williams has left, and K and Duke, the same thing. But Syracuse is the one that's interesting to me because it's moved conferences recently. It is not in a premier location. And in terms of where they sit in the conference year after year, it's middling results at best.
Right. So getting back to the question here, Syracuse is a top blank program. When my buddy Cooper asked that to me, I went to KenPom. I looked at, all right, there's 67 teams ranked ahead of Syracuse right now. And I didn't have a formal calculation here, but I basically just went down the list and I had a little check next to teams that I thought Syracuse is a better program than. And I just moved on from the ones that they aren't. And I tallied that it's pretty much half and half right now, like 30 to 35 teams, I would say I counted in front of Syracuse out of the 67 in front of them on KenPom that I would say are a better program right now. Now, it gets into what do you define as, like, how do you use, what's your definition of best program, basically? Because you could look at it from a historical lens. You could look at it from all-time wins, and Jim Boeheim is about to hit 1,000 this year. Hopefully it doesn't happen in the NIT, which I'm a little terrified of. That would be a nightmare scenario.
Fox acknowledged his wins, all of them?
Really? They didn't have
they had the wins graphics, and it was the 1,000 however many, it was like 87 now that he's at right now. So they gave him the 101 wins back. I thought that was pretty cool to see.
Okay. I think he's 13 away from officially getting it to 1,000 the second time, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I think Syracuse is it's in such a unique spot because there's really no other program in America that is the same case as Syracuse or is in the same position where the regular season is so bad compared to their normal standards, and the postseason is about what you would hope for or expect from Syracuse.
Their postseason returns are that of a 3 seed, like a perennial 3 seed.
Yeah, right. And they're not. And they used to be. And that's why we're upset, because they're not even sniffing a 3 seed. They're not even sniffing a 7 or a 6 seed. So I would say right now they're a top 30 to 35 program in America. And I get that historically speaking, they're better than that. But when you factor in that they have not been a top 25 team in a regular season in what feels like 8 years, outside of like a preseason poll or two here or there that I don't really count, I don't know how you can put them higher than 25-20 right now.
Yeah. All right. I've got this list in front of me. I want to go through a couple of them, and we'll see in the next 5 years, is Syracuse going to be a better program than Program X? We'll do that in just a little bit. But first, I need to tell you about BetOnline.ag, because they've got you covered all season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football season continues their march into the playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. So head on over to their new updated desktop or mobile site to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just got to punch in our promo code, LOCKEDON, all one word, to receive that bonus. Again, locked on, all one word, and you will receive that 50% welcome bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline is where the game starts. And hey, we've been telling you about PrizePicks for a while now. And if you haven't signed up, I don't know what you're waiting for at this point. In addition to the college football action, PrizePicks makes college basketball even more exciting. It's daily fantasy made easy. They're the leader in college sports daily fantasy with more college football and basketball props than anyone in the world. They offer all the stars of the Power Five as well as mid-major players as well that you might not have even heard of. They offer props when you think of basketball like points, rebounds, assists, three-pointers made, and more. There's so many options too on PrizePicks. Like you always find some juicy ones here. They give you some awesome sign-up stuff as well. So be sure to get an account and deposit and use our promo code Locked On. Again, all one word, Locked On, and you will receive an instant deposit match up to $100 as long as you use that promo code Locked On. Pick 2 to 5 players with an over-under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. It's just you versus those projected numbers. You can use their award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play, and entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy, and they're safe and offer fast withdrawals. So don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com and use the promo code Locked On, or go to your App Store and download the app today. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. So continuing the conversation here, Syracuse is a top X program. What is the number X here when we look at the grand scheme of things? Obviously, I look at some of the mid-majors ahead of Syracuse right now. I think you can scrub almost all of them in terms of in 5 years, will this program be better than Syracuse? Obviously, a program like Gonzaga in 5 years going to be better than Syracuse, but the mid-major list is very, very thin when you look at it from that lens. I think maybe a BYU can probably hang around. But the thing about these mid-majors is all it takes is one coaching change for them to completely sink their program, right? So
Yeah.
that to me is going to be the interesting thing with some of these mid-major schools ahead of Syracuse. And even like a St. Bonaventure. In 5 years, will Syracuse be a better program than
No,
St.
I
Bonaventure?
don't even
Like,
entertain the mid majors
yeah,
really. I mean, BYU's they're never going to have the postseason success or sort of fan
even like a
base
St. Mary,
tradition.
like, yeah, like you've had some success and even some sustainable success in your West Coast Conference, but you're never going to be on the same. I put it this way, all right? If it is a deadlock tie for that final at-large spot in the tournament, who's getting in? And I think Syracuse passes that test with it passes the test with every single mid-major, except for maybe Gonzaga at this point. So, and I don't know if Gonzaga is going to be at that level in 5 years. But looking at some of the interesting ones here of teams ahead of Syracuse, let's start with Maryland. In 5 years from now, will Syracuse be held as in a higher standard or a lower standard than Maryland?
I mean, Maryland is not a good program right now, I would
Right.
say. It so much depends on who their next head coach is, but Maryland's behind Syracuse in the net currently. So I think Syracuse has a much stronger case than them. Now, 5 years from now, different question because I've always viewed Maryland as a team that if they got the right coach, you're right in the middle of the DMV area. It's a
Mhm.
great recruiting spot. You own the state basically. You're in a conference that's really solid now in the Big Ten. For some reason, they have never technically been number one in the AP poll. And I know that because Purdue just got to that number one ranking, and now Maryland holds the record of being basically the best program that's never been there. Now they have won a national title.
Yeah.
They just don't do an AP poll after the national
Technically
title.
the
So that's
last
why.
Big Ten national champion. People do forget that.
Yes. But they weren't really a Big Ten school at the time. But yeah, I
Just
don't think
like
Maryland.
just like a UConn, a Big East champion.
Right. I mean, I guess they're on a similar level to Syracuse, but 5 years from now, if they get a good coach, I like their odds more just because they can probably get things trending in the right direction given the recruiting base and the things they have going for them there.
All right, how about this one? I offer you Creighton. Creighton, will Syracuse be a better or worse program than Creighton in the next 5 years?
So this is where it gets into like, isn't this just sad that we're asking that question?
Well, I think Creighton has, in terms of programs that have made the leap, Creighton is actually probably one of the more impressive ones that has made the leap. They've had obviously the iconic player behind them in Doug McDermott, and they've kind of parlayed that into success. Here's what it comes down and boils down to for me. when Carmelo Anthony retires and people sort of, I'm not going to say forget who Carmelo is, but when kids grow up and have not watched Carmelo Anthony as a basketball player, what is this program? Because you look at some of these other schools, like I look at San Diego State, obviously a mid-major ahead of Syracuse right now in KenPom, and not nearly the prestige of Syracuse, but they've got Kawhi Leonard that they can kind of flaunt it as one of their guys, as an NBA superstar right now. Like, where is Syracuse going to be held once Carmelo? Because since Carmelo, there has not been an eye-popping guy to make it in the NBA, really. Like, you can throw me Jeremy Grant all you want, but like that's not on the level of a lot of these other programs.
Yeah, and first off, I think Creighton is basically the anti-Syracuse because they don't do anything in the tournament, it seems like, but they're usually pretty solid in the regular season recently.
Mm-hmm.
But you hit on something that's really important there. If you're an 18-year-old recruit right now, what do you know Syracuse to be? And if you started watching basketball at 11, 12, you literally have never seen you've never seen Syracuse be good in a regular season. It's 8 years now that we have been in this funk. So you have no history or no knowledge or no watching in your memory bank of Syracuse as a top 25 team, basically, which is sad. And also, who are you pointing to that's in the NBA that you're getting intrigued by and you're saying, wow, that's a guy that went to Syracuse and look at him. NBA is pretty much all that matters to these kids, and it's a big deal these days, and it's becoming an even bigger deal, I think. And programs in the SEC, like if we want to compare, all right, is Auburn in a better spot?
I was going to throw some SECs at you next. All right.
Here. Yeah, I mean, SEC, you know me, I really think that they're trending in the right direction, but let's just take Auburn, for example, or any of these SEC schools, really.
Yeah, I think
all of them.
The first one I was going to give you was Arkansas, but we can start with Auburn. And I think the answer is going to be very similar.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because what do you have there if you're a recruit? You have guaranteed playing time and the ability to make mistakes because it's player coaches. Nate Oates, Eric Musselman, Bruce Pearl, all player coaches. You're also going to get paid,
Will Wade.
which is nice.
Yep.
Right, but you also have a track to the NBA, more history of getting to the NBA. Your program's trending up. Syracuse is trending down. You got better weather. You got better overall athletic momentum with the football programs of those SEC schools trending well. And at Syracuse, you have an older coach that it's a question mark. Is he going to be your coach for the entire time you're there? Also, it's a question mark. Are you going to get playing time? Is he going to give you an opportunity to have a freedom to play your game and grow and maybe get the opportunity to have some run in front of NBA scouts? And that's why when you ask yourself, why did Quincy Guerrier leave? Why did Kadari leave? It comes down to that. It's the track to the NBA is not good right now for a Syracuse, or any Syracuse player or recruit. It's hard to sell them on come to Syracuse and we'll get you to the NBA.
We got some pretty visceral reaction to that Kadari Richmond tweet. That again, I don't know if you missed that on our account at @LO_Syracuse. I just said, if you want to get angry, throw on FS1 right now because Kadari was balling out. And I didn't mean that in an ill will way. Okay. I meant it more of a damn what could have been way. Because you can say all you want about, oh, he's playing X number of minutes more. He's only averaging like 0.8 points more or all that's like, at the end of the day, Kadari Richmond being on Syracuse makes Syracuse a better team. Right. And there's no doubt about that in my mind. So anyway, but yeah, no, you're right. I mean, think about the last couple of big time Syracuse recruits that they've gotten. Benny Williams, which obviously the sample, I'm not even going to we shouldn't even include him in this exercise that I'm about to do, but like Malachi Richardson and Tyus Battle. All right.
What about Jalen Carey? I mean, he wasn't big time, but he didn't
like
work out.
Hovering top 50.
Transferred.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying from an NBA perspective. All right. Tyus Battle never cracked an NBA roster, barely hung around in the G League, and is playing overseas right now. Malachi Richardson was drafted in the first round, but never really got anything out of that. So your NBA footprint, and if you want to throw Tyler Lydon in there, since he was a first round pick lately too, you can throw him in there. But like, he's out of basketball. He's not even playing right now.
Yeah, partially injuries, but yeah. There's not a good track record there, and there's not a lot of selling points, and that's why I wonder, is this rock bottom or is rock bottom coming in 5-10 years? And I think it's 5-10 years from now, honestly. I think that's the sad reality more I
It depends on
think
the
about
coach.
this.
It depends
Yeah,
on
but
who is the coach after Jim Boeheim.
and so that gets into, all right, how do you fix the regular season struggles a little bit for me? Because for me, it is going and hiring a guy like Nate Oates, who we just brought up. It's going and getting someone out of the program. But if
But
we're
here's
being
the thing.
realistic, it's never going to happen.
Well, forget whether or not it's going to happen, all right? Let's say you bring in some AD that wants to completely change the culture of what Syracuse is as a university. If I'm Nate Oates, what's the lure bringing me to Syracuse? I mean, like, how many, and this isn't just a Syracuse thing, but like, how many jobs would you leave for if you're Nate Oates? Like, that's a legitimate question. Like, because that's what the SEC is doing. When you've got the backing of all this football money that comes in, there's very little pressure on you to perform, yet you're still excelling at a super high level. Like, if you wanted Nate Oates and you're Syracuse, you had to get him after he left. You had to be his next stop after Buffalo. You just had, because, like, what's the incentive for Nate Oates to leave? What jobs would he leave for? I'm thinking right now in my head, it's probably Duke, Carolina, Kansas.
I don't know if Alabama is quite as good as he's made it into a very good job, but you're still second fiddle forever. You're a basketball coach in a football school.
Listen, you're second fiddle, but guess what? That second fiddle is still better than a lot of places' first fiddle. Like, did you watch the Houston game? Did you see what that atmosphere was like? Like, they have turned themselves into a dual sport school.
But have they hit their ceiling? That's the thing. And you could make a case that if he went to another program, then they're a legit national titles, bringing in championships.
But think about it.
I would say that Nate Oates,
what is he missing?
Signed an extension there.
What'd you say? What is he missing recruiting? Like, the reason why you change jobs, a big reason why, is because of the recruiting advantages that you will get, right? What recruiting advantage is he missing right now? Because he's getting NBA guys. He's developing NBA guys. He's getting 5 stars. He's going to have top 10, top 5 classes over the course of his time at Alabama. Like, what is he missing?
I think, as you were to ask me,
as long as he and his family enjoy living in Tuscaloosa, what is he missing?
And he signed an extension, so I don't think he's necessarily on the block. But you see people bring up, when the Maryland job came open, a lot of people said, what about Nate Oates? They should go after him. They should try and get him. And I do think Maryland and Syracuse are better jobs than Alabama basketball still. Syracuse is still a better job to me than Alabama. And I do think he's made Alabama into a very good program, a very good power. But wouldn't you agree, Syracuse is still a better job than Alabama?
It's a better job, but will it be a better job in 5 years? Like, when the position is open, which who knows when that's going to be? Will it be next year? Will it be in 10 years? Will it be in 50? Like, who knows? Whenever it's going to be, whenever it's open, is it going to be a better job than Alabama? It might not be.
The sad thing is we've spent too much time on this because it's never going to be Nate Oates. It's always going to be a family guy. It's going to be either Red Autry or Jerry McNamara, probably. And it's take your pick of those two if you're John Wildhack.
That's not necessarily the worst thing in the world either. Like,
I don't love it. I don't
guy.
think that inspires much confidence. There was a time where maybe I thought, all right, bring back Hopkins and that's fine. But the way Hop has gone out and struggled, GMAC will step into a role with basically, if it's GMAC or if it's Red, with no head coaching experience. I just don't know if continuing down this path and keeping the culture exactly the way it is and running the 2-3 zone, and I just don't know if that's the answer right now. It scares me to think that that is the direction they're going.
I wonder how many assistants on that staff think to themselves, all right, we should be doing X differently, but they realize they don't necessarily have the power to speak up and say anything. Because, like, that could also be what's going on too. And maybe GMAC would step in and say, all right, we're going to go 50-50 man and zone. Like, I would love to know what their personal coaching philosophies would be like if they were to become a head coach. Because just because you're coaching under Boeheim doesn't mean that your exact coaching profile is going to be an 100% DNA match.
So how do you think they fix this rut? And also, I guess, do you think this is rock bottom? Do you think 5-10 years from now, it's worse than the position that the program is in right now?
I think you'll see more seasons like this. But I would guess this is about as low as it'll get. Like the 5 non-conference losses, like I don't see them going sub 500 in a non-con. I don't think it'll ever stoop to that point. Um, but I think this is about as low as it gets, but I also don't think this is the end of this iteration, if that makes sense. You will see more seasons like this, but I don't think it'll necessarily get worse than this. We'll go into fixing the regular season in a little bit. We thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen every single day, and be sure to check out the Ultimate College Football Playoff Preview 2021. Local experts, betting advice, and draft analysis. The most comprehensive college football playoff preview begins this Friday, so be sure to check that out as well. Also want to tell you about Omaha Steaks. Hey, you're having some trouble getting that perfect gift for someone? Because Omaha Steaks makes it easy to send friends and family an unforgettable gift guaranteed to be loved. So go to omahasteaks.com and enter college into the search bar to order the perfect gift package for $99.99. You'll get 24 entrees like the world-famous bacon-wrapped filet mignons, chicken breasts, sides, desserts, and so much more. All you got to do is use the code word college, and you will get an additional 8 Omaha Steaks burgers for free with your order. You've heard all about the reports of shortages, shipping delays, so don't wait. Order the perfect gift package today at omahasteaks.com. You'll get 8 free burgers when you enter the promo code college. Achieve gifting greatness with Omaha Steaks. Incredible flavor, incredible value, and 100% guaranteed. omahasteaks.com, keyword college. All right. How do you fix this mess? That is the $1 million question. How do you get these regular season struggles? Because again, the tournament success is nice, but these pop-up tournament runs aren't necessarily going to lead to recruiting success, right? And I think we've sort of seen that play out these last couple of years, because a lot of these teams, you'll see it's either a charismatic coach that can really drive home recruiting and getting guys to the next level, or it's going to be a guy that, or it's going to be a team that is playing in big games and a premier team in the conference. And those regular season success leads to tournament success. You can have both. We have preached that time and time again. You can be great in the ACC, and you can be great in the NCAA tournament with Sweet 16, Elite Eights, all that stuff, Final Fours. So how do you fix it? Really, to me, it comes down to the recruiting of it all. And I just feel like some of the whiffs in recruiting have really led to where this program is right now. You look at some of these classes, and again, we've talked about the next class. It's a lot of bodies. Who knows how many are going to hang around for the entirety of their collegiate careers? I'm not very inspired by the next class. I know Jim Boeheim says it's one of the best ever that he's had, but to me, it feels like more of a quantity than quality.
I actually really like the next class, and that's because I feel like they are going to bring in guys that will have room to grow, will have playing time right away, because not a lot of guys are probably going to return, and should have a roadmap to building a solid 3-4 year core there. Guys that hopefully will be juniors and still with the program and still growing and developing. And that's the key for me, because in this transfer portal era, I don't think it favors Syracuse, because the keys to the zone are pretty simple. A good 2-3 zone has good athleticism and it has good experience in the system. And this year's does not have either of those things. And you need to have guys that are in year 2, year 3, if you're still under Jim Boeheim, to make this zone work. And I do think they've got a pretty solid group coming in next year, but it's not the top end talent it used to be. And they're never going to probably get back to that top end talent under Jim Boeheim. I just don't see, unless they have some crazy good season here and rip off.
I still think people view Jim Boeheim as a legend, right?
Oh
Like
yeah,
recruits coming, like that still is a thing.
but you're also worried, when's he going to leave? And all the reasons that I laid out before when I was comparing them to a school like Auburn or an Arkansas from the SEC, all those things are factors. The fact that they have not been a top 25 team to a 17-year-old kid in basically their basketball viewing lifetime, and the NBA is not really a thing. I just don't know how you get the recruiting up to what it used to be.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Outside of winning games. And
listen,
I don't know how
I
you
think
get to the winning games without recruiting.
at a certain point too, you need to bring in NBA caliber guys to be able to have the sort of success that I think a lot of fans are aspiring for. in terms of getting to Final Fours and playing for a national championship and being in that conversation, you do need to bring in NBA guys. Like if you're not recruiting guys with NBA aspirations, I think that's a problem. And I'm not saying Syracuse isn't doing that because they obviously are recruiting these
They're just
guys.
not getting
It's
them.
just, yeah, exactly. They're not getting the guys. And that's the problem that's plaguing this program right now. So in terms of fixing the regular season, I mean, ultimately it comes down to you need some more talent. You need more developed talent in the program. And right now, like, sure, you've developed some guys, right? Like Buddy Boeheim was a guy who came in and people said, oh, nepotism this, nepotism that. And he's turned himself into a nice player. Jesse Edwards is a guy who not a lot of people were very high on and has all of a sudden turned himself into a nice player and probably contributing a lot more than some people thought. But for every one of those success stories, you see the uber talented top 50 guy, top 75 guy gets a little disgruntled, leaves the program because they're not given the benefit of the doubt per se to go out there, have a leash, make some mistakes. And to me, that has been the problem right now. Like I think of some of the successful Syracuse freshmen that we've seen in the past, like Malachi Richardson had the leash to make mistakes. And I think that like you do not have a Malachi Richardson versus Virginia performance if he is not given the leash to make some of the mistakes that he made early in the season.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't know. I mean, this program's at a very interesting spot. It's at a crossroads. And you have to wonder right now if someone were to ask me, does it get worse or does it get better from here? The more I think about it, and I know this is going to anger some people, but I think it gets worse before it gets better. And I think the biggest part of this is who they hire after Jim Boeheim. And the fact that we pretty much know it's going to be one of two guys makes me a little uneasy because I'd like to see them use what they have, use the fact that it is a strong job in the Northeast and try to dip into that and interview all kinds of candidates and try to get a Nate Oates to come back and throw money at him. Because if you don't have basketball at Syracuse and you're John Wildhack or whatever the athletic
What do you
director is
have?
that's making that,
Yeah.
like football is in the tank. Even lacrosse is struggling. All these sports are really not looking great right now, if we're being frank about the situation. And the ACC is going to be making some conference realignment stuff, maybe. And I just don't know if Syracuse is the most appealing athletic program if basketball is on the decline. And that's my concern because we've seen it happen to Georgetown. We've seen it happen to Pittsburgh, some of these older Big East schools. I don't know if it's going to get quite as bad as that, but I just don't see why it's going to get much better. Like, are they going to make the tournament this year? Maybe. But big picture, doing this every year does not bring in recruits. It does not get you back to
like let's be honest, it's not fun to live with that sort of anxiety every single year. You should have and like even your surest thing tournament entry wise in the past like 5-7 years, you got in as a 9, was an 8 or 9 seed. You played in the 8-9 matchup.
I think.
8, okay, yeah. Was it the 8 seed? Okay. You got in as an 8 seed and played in the 8-9 matchup and you lost. And that it's funny because that was the most comfortable you felt on a selection Sunday, yet the most underwhelming of results was produced.
Yeah, it's the round one exit. Yeah, I think what scares me a lot is not so much that I don't think the program's in like a terrible, terrible spot right now. I'm definitely down on where we're at, but I will be the first to admit that there's a lot of programs that are worse off. And it's easy to get greedy in the situation we're in because we had some really successful years in like 2007, 2008 to 2013. And we've seen what this program can be, but it's in a very solid conference, usually in the ACC, and they're doing good things in the tournament. Like it could be a whole lot worse, but my question is, what inspires optimism that it is going to get better from here versus getting worse? And is there a scenario where Jim Boeheim leaves, quote unquote, on top? I don't know if there is at this point.
It would have to be, I think it would have to take a Buddy coming back for a 5th year sort of deal. And you're going to have to probably get some transfers that pick up the zone quickly. Like, I don't know. Like, is there
next year's not looking good? That's the other thing.
No,
like,
unless
no matter
Buddy,
how you slice it.
I think there's one scenario where next year is good. And that is Buddy comes back for a shocking 5th year. Benny takes the next step and hangs around too. And then Jesse continues his development, starts rebounding a little bit better. And then you might have a chance there. And maybe you fill in some other spots and guys take a next step too. But it would
But
take a
also,
lot,
you
I
just
think.
laid out kind of the dream scenario, and I think Benny could stay and be very solid next year. But that dream scenario to me is still not what you just laid out. Still not a top 25 team. I don't think in the regular season it's probably more of the same.
Well, if Benny takes a step, I think it could be.
Again, I guess it just comes down to my reluctance to ever sort of give them the benefit of the doubt in regular seasons, but it's just sort of more of the same. Like Buddy's been on teams now for 4 years and none of them have produced in the regular season.
But he's never been the alpha dog that he is until now as well. And listen,
he's not producing.
He's not. And again, that's right. Again, I'm not saying that they're some sort of Final Four contender next year, but I think they could be a top 25 program with certain things breaking their way as well. But we shouldn't be having that conversation. This should be a team that year after year after year is a preseason top 25 team with expectations. And right now, year after year after year, it's like, can they get in the tournament? And for a program that has built up this much cachet with a coach for over 40 plus years, it's sad to see that this is where it's at right now. It really is.
Yeah. No, it's really frustrating because it's the same thing every year. And if this was 1 year in a vacuum, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I wouldn't be that upset. But the fact that it's going on 8 years of this and there's not really a light at the end of the tunnel of correcting these regular season struggles, and next year maybe looks worse on paper, that's really scary.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to do it for us today. Tomorrow, we will dive into a little bit more of some tweets, some maybe some more Georgetown thoughts as well, and some football stuff because tomorrow is signing day. So we'll give you a little bit. There's really not a lot to look at from a signing day perspective. Dino's smallest class in his tenure at Syracuse by a pretty hefty margin too. We'll also get into some of the Tommy DeVito stuff, some other football stuff, special teams coordinator, all that stuff. That is coming up on tomorrow's show. We thank you for listening. We will talk to you guys tomorrow.